Good morning from the Holy Land, and welcome to the Just Breathe podcast. Today, we have a beautiful healing conversation from the heart with Claudia Davimes, the lovely Claudia Davimes, a wonderful therapist, author, and truth seeker. We're going to talk about her insightful book, The Joy of Being Wrong. This book is a powerful invitation to rethink the narrative we've carried since childhood and to free ourselves from outdated operating systems that no longer serve us. So, welcome, Claudia, to the podcast. Good to have you.
Thank you, Shib, for inviting me. Lovely to be with you.
Thank you. And your book, I have to say, is incredible. It's phenomenal. I finished it in 2 days flat because I couldn't put it down, literally. I have the proof sticky notes to show. I just loved it. So well done. Mazal tov on
Thank
doing
you.
it. It's a big undertaking. It's beautiful. Could you tell us a bit about your healing journey and how and what you put into this book and what you'd love our listeners to get from it?
So, how I came to the title, The Joy of Being Wrong, was that working on myself and seeing clients, I realized how we have very definite preconceived ideas that we stick to like glue our whole lives. It can be an idea about a person, it can be an idea about life, and we go with these premeditated ideas, and while we almost feel good that we write about them, for example, I knew I couldn't trust him, or I knew she would let me down, or I knew the world was an unsafe place, funnily enough, in being right, we actually are not happy. And so I started to question the idea of what happens if we allowed ourselves to be wrong and we could change that early narrative that we developed as children. Because if you think about it, Shib, people walk around with software that is from 1958 or 1963 or 1975, and they don't update their software. And adults live with a child's software in their minds. And so for me, the crucial part of therapy was finding out what was the conclusions that we made as children. Never mind why we made them, because we understand that children have to find a way of managing. And so what do we do as children? We make a conclusion, we stick to it, and it arms us and gives us a shield in order to cope. What we don't do and should do is that when we become adults, we should rethink that shield. We should rethink our defenses and update them, but we don't. And so for me, as I worked on my own world in my own life, and I went through quite a big personal journey with my late husband and his illness and my children and running a practice, I started to allow myself to question things that I'd held on to, like I have to do everything myself and it's all up to me, and discovered that when I allowed myself to be wrong, I actually was very happy. And I passed this on to my clients, and that was really the foundation of my work.
Wow, so inspiring, so real and raw, and I felt that in your book. I felt so connected to your story, and since it's the month of Iyar and it's the month of healing in Judaism, it's a beautiful time to embrace healing for all of us, and take on a new way of thinking, a new way of healing ourselves. And you speak in your book about the wounded child,
Yeah.
the inner child, and how healing that really gives the adult the space to make choices. And could you say something about that? What are the common thoughts
Mm-hmm.
or emotional patterns that you find many people need to update?
So the inner child is very much part of transactional analysis, which people know about. You know that there's the inner child, there's the child and the parent and the adult. The inner child is became a very big part of psychology because people felt that if they could access their inner child and do work with the inner child where your vulnerability is, or actually your creativity is as well, that it would be very helpful. There's a part of the inner child, though, that is the wounded child, that is the specific child that I refer to in the book. And that is the child who received a wounding. Now, a wounding can be humiliation, it can be abandonment, it can be insecurity, it can be abuse, it can be alienation, or it doesn't have to be a specific event. It can be a sense growing up that wounds the child. It affects the child in a way that the child then has to develop a shield. And a shield can be throwing yourself into your sport or into academics. It can be being the clown in the family, or even becoming ill and using somatic illnesses to get cared for. So what we want to do is we want to find out what was the conclusion of the wounded child. Because if you listen to adults talking and if you listen to couples talking, then you'll actually hear the wounded child in conversations, like when couples fight and they go, "You don't care about me, and why are you so mean to me, and why are you doing this, and you never come when I ask you, and you leave me alone." There's a lot of childlike feelings that are expressed all the time. He doesn't like me, and I'll never get what I want, and it's not fair. And you can hear the child all the time. So basically, when you work on relationships, and especially marriages, the whole point in therapy is to access the adult who can manage the wounded child. So by that I mean I own my feeling that I feel lonely, I feel like we're not connecting, but instead of expressing it as, "You don't care about me, why don't you ever take me out, why don't you ever buy me anything, why don't you love me," it would be, "Wow, I really miss you. I would love us to spend some time this week together." So the adult takes care of the feeling. The adult owns the conversation rather than the wounded child taking over. And the wounded child can be very destructive because all the wounded child feels is their own pain. They don't see a solution. They don't see a way of managing. And that's why as adults, we have to take over from the wounded child.
That's beautiful. It's a whole new way of communicating and
Yeah,
growing up. It's a choice. It's a choice to grow up.
exactly.
I think many people don't, unfortunately, grow up, which is very sad. It's a lot
No,
of suffering.
there was an interesting saying that a person said, and I don't remember their name, but this person said, "Everybody gets older, but not everybody grows up."
Exactly. And
And that
it's a
is,
beautiful thing to grow up.
well, I've always said that adulthood is underrated. I actually wouldn't like to go back to being a child because I think you've got so little choice. I mean, you've got people making decisions on your behalf all the time and not always good ones.
Right.
I think being an adult is a wonderful time where you can make a decision, get into the driver's seat and say, "You know what, this doesn't feel good. I want to make some changes." So I think that there's a freedom in adult thinking and rational thinking that is much bigger and far more extensive than the narrowness of the wounded child.
Right. And it can also have the other flip side of being draining, and it depends how you see it. Like there's a funny saying that says, "I'm done adulting for the day." And it's this person like wiped out on
Yeah.
the floor. So it depends how you see it, right?
Well, I think that person feels weighed down by responsibility. Okay, that the person's paying bills and cleaning the house and running with kids, but that might be actually that's the weight of parenting a lot of the time. And parenting is much more heavy going. The other thing that I haven't said that I think is very important is that if you've got childlike feelings in a relationship, your partner can land up parenting you. And we often see marriages with parent-child relationships rather than adult to adult.
Right.
And
And
so you'll say
codependency comes in there. Right.
yes, he's amazing to her and he's always looking after her, or she really cares for him. But we have to be careful because parent-child should only belong literally to between a parent and their child and not in a
Absolutely.
marriage.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's something also for the adult self for parenting their wounded child and really healing. My definition of healing which I agree and take from Bessel van der Kolk, who's one of the leading trauma therapists, is that healing really is when you release the suffering, when it doesn't trigger you anymore. And for me, that happened when I had many beautiful years of therapy, 12 of them with you in your pink room, with your warmth and kindness, and just so much growth. So thank you for that. And it's an honor to be doing this podcast with you about your book. So
thank you.
But what I wanted to say is there's a mind-body connection. And it really happened for me that when I went for somatic therapy here in Jerusalem, that the connection just shifted and released the trauma and the memory that my body held. And for me, healing really includes the body. And you speak about that in your book quite extensively, about the mind-body connection. And
Yes.
You weave that in beautifully. So could you speak a bit about that, and maybe also about Louise Hay, who you reference, who I love?
I always related to her because besides the fact that she did so much amazing work on her own self and her own disease, and she really explored it, I understood from paying attention to my body that my body was often much more honest than I was. And I think everybody, people will say, my body's let me down. I can't run like I used to, and I can't perform like I used to. I don't think our bodies let us down at all. I think our bodies give us very honest information about where we are, and we usually choose to ignore it until it's huge and in our face. In other words, when someone gets pneumonia, no ways did they just get pneumonia. They had telltale signs along the way, which they probably ignored, like fatigue or feeling out of sorts. But people ignore and put off a lot of their physical feelings because they don't want to address them, or they think it's weak, or they're not sure like they're going to open Pandora's box. So our physical is our bodies give us amazing information. And if we just take a moment every day to say, wow, my knees are giving me that little bit of ache again, or I've had a sty twice in 6 months. I wonder what I'm looking at that I don't want to see. It just takes a moment, because our vision is about what we're looking at, and our hearing is about what we're listening to. And anything to do with our throat is about our speech. It's quite logical, actually, if you look at the way Louise Hay, approached the body. She kind of did it in a way that makes a lot of sense for me. So I think today, people are much more aware that their bodies are giving them important information. I think it's important for us to respect our bodies and to listen. And I've had a neck op and a back op, which I call my donkey damage, from lifting my husband out of the wheelchair and off the floor and doing very stupid things that I called being a loving wife, but it was actually called being irresponsible. And so my donkey damage, I'm very aware of the fact that I felt that I had to do all the supporting and had to carry the load. And so my relationship today with my spine is very sacred in a way. I'm very respectful of my spine because it's been through a lot and I have to take care of myself. So it certainly changed my self-preservation, let me say. It's not just that I had 2 surgeries. It's that I had to open my eyes and understand what self-sufficiency was and why I felt I had to carry the load.
It's beautiful that you got to that conclusion through, unfortunately, through the surgeries, but some people never get to that conclusion. So thank God that you did.
Yeah. And you see, it makes sense also when you say that your body was holding on to almost like the last vestiges, because
exactly.
You turned you thought about things over and over. You turned it inside out. You didn't leave a stone unturned. And while you understood it mentally and emotionally, on a somatic level, on a tissue level, on a body level, your body still had the remnants which had to be dealt with. Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense.
That's exactly right. Exactly true. And actually I couldn't be free until those last pieces were freed. It's almost like when someone gets triggered by something, you could be standing in line at the pharmacy and all of a sudden some thought or some visual or
Yeah.
something triggers you into your childhood, literally, and something that it's not happening at the moment. And that's actually what Dr. van der Kolk speaks of, is that it's not the rational part of your brain. So as
Not at
much as
all.
I'd worked with the rational part over and
Yes.
over and over, this was something else.
And also, Shiv, the truth is that people are very attached to their pain. As much as we spend a lot of money on books and podcasts and therapy and this and that, people feel that if they surrender their pain, they're losing or reducing the significance of what happened to them.
Wow, that's
And
beautiful. Yes.
and so one of the ways of holding on to what happened to you, to give it value, let's say, is to hold on to it. And I remember working with a client who was involved in a incestuous relationship, and we spoke about the power of sustaining the memory, almost like a constant memorial service to it. And she said, if I reduce the pain, I'm telling that little girl that what happened to her is over, which it is. And she said, but then I'm saying it had no significance. So for her, keeping herself in the pain was memorializing it and giving credibility to her little girl.
Wow, that's beautiful. There's a part
It's
of us that fears who we'll be without that pain.
exactly. And we have quite a difficulty separating what it means to remember what's happened to us, but to be able to let go of the pain that came with it. So memory doesn't mean because we don't have pain that we don't remember, but the pain itself keeps us in that childlike state, that wounded state, which is very destructive, unfortunately.
Right, absolutely. And I think and to be an adult is part of that letting go and the forgiveness. And really, I think that's what happened to my turning point as well, was when I could let go of all the fears and resentments. That was freeing, letting go of the past,
Absolutely.
not living there anymore. It's done. I learned from it, and moving on. And there's something beautiful in that freedom.
You know, we speak about the word forgiveness quite lightly, but actually you can't experience loving if you haven't forgiven. And they're tied together. And so people will casually say, oh, I forgave my mom. And I ask the question, what actually does that mean? Does it mean you phone her more often? Does it mean you share things with her? Does it mean you lean on her again? Oh, no, I just, in my head, I say, okay, she didn't mean it. Now, forgiveness is a living thing. And so if we haven't seen a shift in our behavior and we haven't changed towards the person, we haven't forgiven them. It's not a word. It's an experience. Forgiveness is an experience. It's not a word.
Right.
So I can't say I've forgiven you unless the way I treat you and I experience you in my world is different. And people also see forgiveness as a weakness, that I'm letting you off the hook for what you did to me. And so people have very interesting views about what is strength and what is weakness. Vulnerability is weakness. Forgiveness is weakness. And sadly, once you see those two things as weak, you then are committed to a life of being very attached to your woundedness and refusing to see that you've got choices as an adult.
It's like the outdated operating system. That's why you guys need to get Claudia's book, because she teaches you how to think differently and feel differently and grow up, and there's beauty in it. And I think now is a wonderful time to embrace this, the month of Iyar, just everything going on at the moment in the world and in Israel, and just what we've gone through since COVID, since 2020, the war that we've gone through, that's we're still going through. I mean, if now's not a good time to invest in your healing for yourself, for your partner, for your children, there's no better time. So thank you for this beautiful talk, and I hope your book
Thank
reaches
you.
many, many people and helps many, many people. And
Thank
I like to end with a bracha, with a wish for our listeners. Would you like to share something for our
you. Sure.
listeners?
I always suggest when I start working with people, two things. Start your morning off with the saying, I believe in the possibility of things being different, which opens the door to the universe that actually things can be different. Because although we say we want things to be different, we resist. So, number one is, I believe in the possibility of things being different. And the second thing is, choose one thing that you are prepared to be wrong about. A person, an incident, a feeling, a decision, a conclusion. Just choose one thing and see what happens when you're prepared to be wrong about it.
I love that. It's your ego. It's all ego for me, because if you can be wrong, there's no ego, right? It just takes it
No
away. It's
negative ego.
no
No
negative
negative
ego,
ego.
right? There's no
Yeah.
pride.
Ego
It's just
itself
you,
is a positive thing. It's the
right?
negative ego.
It's
Yes.
there's no pride.
Yes.
It's humility, and it's beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you. I love that blessing.
Thank you,
Amen.
Sharon.
And I'd like to give our listeners a blessing too, that they embrace healing this month and find the answers and the awareness for themselves to reach a place where they don't have to suffer anymore. Pain's inevitable, it's part of life. But for me, healing really is the point where the scales tip and we don't have to suffer anymore. We can choose how we feel and think and act and behave and how we travel through life. So may you all be blessed to heal this month, and God bless and thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
God bless.
Thank you.
Bye, Claude.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so
Bye.
much.